Welcome back to the channel. Now, today's video it's a hard video, and I really don't know where to start. But if you're watching this video, then you heard the news. Brian Barczyk has cancer. Now, I titled this video, Brian Barczyk is Cured, and I'll tell you why. I believe words are powerful. I believe if you say something enough and you truly believe it, then you can manifest it. You can make it happen. I believe that if you say, I'm going to have a bad day, then you're going to have a bad day. I'll tell you a story. I used to work retail for years, and girls would come in scrubs. And I would ask them, what do you do? Oh, I'm a CNA. Oh, I'm a nurse. Oh, I'm in the healthcare field. Every day I would see these girls as I was working my cash register. And I start telling my coworkers, one day I'm going to wear scrubs. One day I'm going to wear scrubs. One day I'm going to wear scrubs. I said this every day. And I spoke into existence. I'm a nurse. So again, that's why I titled this video, Brian Barczyk is Cured. Because I don't think that Brian Barczyk needs sorrow. I can appreciate it, and I'm sure Brian can too. But we don't need to tell him, oh, I'm sorry. No, don't do that. When you see him, speak positivity into him. If I ever see Brian Barczyk in real life, hey, Brian, you're cured. I would say that every time I see him. I don't care if I got to say it 1 billion times. I truly believe that you will be cured, Brian. Whether it's in a month, whether it's in 2 months, whether it's in a year, I will tell people you are cured every day because I believe it. And like I said, I believe that words are powerful. And if you say it enough, if you believe it, you can speak it into existence. You mean a lot to this reptile community, Brian. And we're not ready to let you go. I believe that you have inspired and are inspiring a generation of reptile keepers. And, you have so much work to do. It's just I can speak personally, to actually be able to get you on my podcast and chat with you. That was an experience that I'll never forget. I can be 95 years old and I'll never forget it. You are so humble, so down to earth, and your message of conservation is, it means a lot. So if you ever see this, Brian, I want you to know that I thank you, because when I first got into the reptile hobby, I watched a lot of your videos, and I still do to this day. I don't have a bad word to speak about you, Brian. So again, you are cured. You are cured, Brian. And I mean that. And I hope that you keep your head up and you keep fighting and know that you're not alone, Brian. You mean a lot to everyone, even if we don't keep reptiles, you're a human being. So you mean something. I wouldn't wish cancer on my worst enemy. So keep your head up, Brian. You mean a lot to me. I'm a huge fan. You mean a lot to everybody in this hobby. Now, I want to show you something. I had a podcast with Brian Cusco, and I asked him, what does Brian Barczyk mean to you? And I'm going to show you what he said. 30 seconds, and let's just take, 30 seconds and be silent for Brian Barczyk. And then after that 30 seconds, I want you to tell me what Brian Barczyk means to you. So let's go 30 seconds. All right, I think we're good. Now, you personally have a personal relationship with Brian Barczyk. We all know what he's going through. So can you tell me, what does he mean to you?
Brian's a great friend. And he means a lot. He supported me he inspired me and supported me when I was first getting started, and just encouraging. And the first time I met him was at the very first reptile show I ever attended, actually, because when I was growing up keeping reptiles before I moved to Hawaii, I never went to any reptile shows. I just had pet snakes. And so when I decided to get back into reptiles, once we moved back to the mainland and could do it, I decided to go attend a show. I picked up one of my first ball pythons at the Reptile Super Show down there in Southern California. It was the Pomona show. And once we got back, I started watching YouTube videos. I'd seen Brian's videos and I'd seen a handful of other ones, Mike Wilbanks, Kevin's videos. And Brian happened to be at the show. I didn't know he was going to be there, but I'm like walking through the show and there he was standing. I was like, hey, that's the Snake Bites TV guy. He's here at this show. It was such a crazy weekend because it's such a big show. When I first walked in, I had to like walk around for like maybe 10 minutes. And I was like, okay, I got to go outside and like breathe because it was just overwhelming. And then to add on top of the fact that then he was there too. So that was a big moment. So I walked up and took a picture with him like a nerd, just like, he's like, can you take a picture? Because there's like other people taking pictures. And I was like, oh, I'm going to go take a picture too. I actually had on the Snake Bites TV shirt when I was at that show, not knowing he was going to be there. And then I walked away after taking the picture and I was like, man, what a nerd. I'm such a nerd.
Hey, I'm gonna be honest. I'd be the same way. If I saw you at an expo, I'm like, oh my God, that's Cusco. I need a picture.
So I like walked around a little bit and like psyched myself. I was like, don't be such a loser. Just go back up and talk to him. What is wrong with you? And so I did that. I walked back up. I was like, hey man, I just wanted to like talk a little bit, if that's cool. And he's like, yeah, let's talk. And then we proceeded to stand there and talk for like 3 hours. I think 3 hours we just stood there and talked about everything except for snakes, basically, which I thought was super cool. Talking about like music and photography and just all this other cool stuff. And then Kerry King walks up and gives him a handshake while we're talking. I'm like, that was like, you're friends with Kerry King? So from that moment, I thought he was a real cool guy, meeting him in person. And then down the line, I decided I wanted to get into the Sunset Project, which I did. And I bought my hets from him and paid a pretty penny, because it was at the very beginning of the project, kind of when hets were still like, it was expensive. And I raised him up for a bit. I probably had him about 9 months. And then the female one morning had an RI, or, I was actually doing a video filming and doing an update on the snakes. And as I'm doing the video, I see a bubble pop out of the mouth. If you go back and watch that video, I don't even remember what it's called, but if you watch it, you can see my face like change as I noticed a little bubble pop out of the snake's mouth. I'm like, oh, that doesn't look right. And so I called him. He told me to keep him updated. And so I called him to let him know what was happening, because I was keeping them updated every couple months. And like, yeah, they're doing great, they're growing. And then that update call was just like, I hated that call, because I was like, man, one of them's I took one to the vet. Like, I'm on the way to the vet right now with one of them. And he just first thing he said was, oh man, whatever happens, I've got you. Like, whatever happens, even if that snake ends up being fine, I'll make sure you have another one to back it up, just in case. And I mean, my heart just like lifted and sank, and I cried. I was so embarrassed, because I actually cried on the phone with him when he told me that, because it was huge. It was a lot of money for me at the time. I basically put everything I had into these projects, and it was just huge to hear him just say that whatever happens, I'll make sure you're taken care of. And he was a man of his word. Unfortunately, that snake didn't make it, but he was a man of his word and made sure that I was still in the project without having to spend another dime. So, and then he's just continued to do that as we became friends. I closer and closer friends. We went out to Indonesia on a really amazing trip, with Forrest. And even on that trip, I crashed my drone on the side of a bridge, and in one early morning in Jakarta, and just like just obliterated. And he's standing there watching me fly and watching me crash it. He looks at me, he goes, don't worry, dude, you can fly mine for the rest of the trip. I was like, did you see what I did to mine? You want me to fly yours?
I love your stories, man. You have so many amazing memories with Brian Barczyk.